Okay, a very good evening to one and all. And this is the last class of this semester, I should say, the last official class. And we will be discussing the remaining 20 question. Then tomorrow we will keep a 20-minute session on which like how to attempt the paper. That's it. So without wasting any time, let's start with question number 131. We have already discussed till question number 130. This question is directly being taken from Ali sir's class on dynamics, and this is also available in your booklet 3, where we have given the formula of this Coriolis acceleration, right? That is there, or Coriolis force. So question number 131 basically says that Coriolis acceleration of the particle over the Earth's surface depends upon. So let me tell you, the formula for Coriolis acceleration is the following. A is equal to 2v omega sine phi, right? Which you might have seen in the case of Coriolis force also, that is 2v omega sine phi. So guys, it is clearly evident that Coriolis acceleration here, which is A, Coriolis acceleration is basically A is dependent on V, which is the velocity. So velocity of the particle. It is dependent on omega, which is basically the angular velocity of the Earth, of rotation of Earth, right? It is also dependent on sine phi, which is basically latitude. So A, C, and D are the only options which are correct, right? Mass of the particle is not in picture, then longitude is not in picture. So only A, C, and D is correct, and only one option which gives A, C, D is second. So very simple question, repeated question of n number of times. So the correct answer here will be second, though we have attached all the explanation here as shown below. All the explanation is there, like 2v omega sine phi. So you can see angular velocity, yes. Mass of the particle, no. Latitude of the location, yes. Velocity of the particle, yes. Longitude of the location, no. So the correct answer for 131 is second, and it's a very easy question. Like multiple times it have come into the exam. So it depends upon the angular velocity, which is omega. It depends upon the latitude to the location, which is phi, and it depends upon the velocity of the particle, which is v. Formula I have already shown you, that AC is equal to 2v omega sine phi. Is that clear to each and everyone? जल्दी से बताएंगे. किसी को कोई डाउट है यहाँ तक? क्विकली गाइस रिस्पॉन्ड करेंगे, क्विकली रिस्पॉन्ड करेंगे जल्दी से. किसी को कोई डाउट है यहाँ तक? चलिए, आपको हर क्वेश्चन क्रिस्टल क्लियर होना चाहिए, तभी तो आप सॉल्यूशन को वेल डन मैनर में डाइजेस्ट करेंगे, राइट? अदरवाइज क्या है? ठीक है, चलिए जी आगे चलते हैं. नाउ लेट्स मूव टू क्वेश्चन नंबर 132. दिस इज अ वेरी सिंपल क्वेश्चन, right? Not that much of typical question, but very simple question, and you could have easily decipher it, right? When he talked about iron catastrophe, right? So iron is basically more into the core. तो एक ही जगह उस बात का डिस्कशन आ रहा है, but we will see that question number 132 it says which feature of that chemical differentiation of Earth today, like when we have seen that there are 3 layers of the Earth, crust, mantle, and core, that is basically called chemical differentiation, and different layer have different elements. Like we have in crust, we have oceanic and continental crust. In oceanic crust, we have silicon and magnesium. In continental crust, we have silicon and aluminum. Then we have mantle, right? And we have pyroxene and olivine in mantle. Then we have core, we have iron in that, right? So that we should remember. And then he's asking one question that reflects the influence of iron catastrophe. So let's first have a look at what it actually this iron catastrophe, right? And we will have the options thought process over this, right? So it says that the iron catastrophe is a geological event that occurred early in the Earth's history. जब अर्थ फॉर्म हो रहा था around 4.5 billion years ago. During this period, Earth was largely molten due to its intense heat from the radioactive decay and impact. ये हम पहले ही पढ़ चुके हैं. ये क्वेश्चन भी एग्जाम में पूछा गया था कि रेडियोएक्टिव डिके और इसकी वजह से हीट डेवलप होती है कोर के अंदर. Then dense materials, primarily iron and nickel, begin to sink towards the center of the earth. मतलब जो हैवी है वो कोर में जाएगा. ये मैं आपको पढ़ाता भी हूँ स्ट्रक्चर ऑफ अर्थ में. जो हैवी है, सबसे हैवी है, उसकी डेंसिटी ज्यादा है, वो कोर में जाएगा. तो अर्थ ड्यू टू द ग्रेविटी while lighter silicates materials float upward and the process led to the formation of earth distinct layer crust mantle core ऐसे ही बने थे the dense metallic core rich in iron and nickel and the less dense silicate mantle and crust and this differentiation is also release tremendous amount of gravitational potential energy as heat further contributing to the molten state of the ongoing differentiation मतलब वो liquid form में ही रहे राइट right? तो ये तो हमें क्लियरली समझ में आ गया कि भाई डेंसिटी के बेसिस पे डिफरेंशिएशन हुआ था और आयरन जो है वो कोर में ज्यादा होगा ये तो सबको ही पता है कि क्रस्ट के कंपैरिजन में तो यहाँ पे करेक्ट आंसर जो आ जाएगा आपका वो फर्स्ट आ जाएगा लेकिन हम इवेल्युएट करेंगे सारे आंसर को सो द देयर इज मोर आयरन इन द कोर देन इन द क्रस्ट ये करेक्ट आंसर है इस क्वेश्चन के लिए कि भाई कोर के अंदर ज्यादा आयरन होगा वो हमें पता भी है वेल नोन ऑन द फेसिस ऑफ डेंसिटी so now let's talk about the other options which are given there so first option what it says there is more iron in the core than in crust बिल्कुल सही बात है कोर के अंदर ज्यादा आयरन है एज कंपेयर टू क्रस्ट के क्रस्ट में तो एल्यूमिनियम सिलिकॉन और मैग्नीशियम है दिस स्टेटमेंट डायरेक्टली रिफ्लेक्ट द आउटकम ऑफ द आयरन कैटास्ट्रॉफ as the iron is much denser than silicate material it sank at the center of the earth from the core leaving the lighter silicates to form the crust and mantle therefore the vast majority of the earth iron is concentrated in the core because of the density the iron was more into the core right ये बात आपके माइंड में होनी चाहिए कि डेंसिटी क्योंकि ज्यादा है उसकी मैक्सिमम डेंसिटी है दैट्स व्हाई वो कोर के अंदर ज्यादा है आपका ठीक है तो ये तो इसका करेक्ट आंसर आपका गाइस हो गया फर्स्ट बट व्हाई नॉट अदर ऑप्शंस वी हैव टू लुक फॉर दैट आल्सो क्योंकि क्वेश्चंस पूछने के कई तरीके हैं आजकल ठीक है और हर लॉजिक आपको पता होना चाहिए सो द आउटर लिथोस्फीयर स्टोर मोस्ट ऑफ द अर्थ आयरन ये तो गलत है ठीक है कॉन्टिनेंटल क्रस्ट में तो सिलिका प्लस एल्यूमिनियम होता है जिसको आप आउटर लिथोस्फीयर कह रहे हैं तो ये तो एब्सोल्युटली रॉन्ग हो जाएगा ये स्टेटमेंट इसमें कोई दम है ही नहीं ठीक है ये स्टेटमेंट तो रॉन्ग है इसका रीजन भी हम देख लेते हैं क्यों ये रॉन्ग है तो सेकंड तो रॉन्ग हो गया ठीक है क्यों रॉन्ग है वो भी हम देख लेते हैं फटाफट से द आउटर लिथोस्फीयर क्रस्ट एंड अपर मोस्ट मेंटल इज प्राइमरली कंपोज्ड ऑफ सिलिकेट रॉक्स जो मैंने बताया which are much less dense than iron and most of the earth's iron is not stored there and it is in the core the statement is incorrect ये आपको पता चल गया क्यों है थर्ड स्टेटमेंट के बारे में बात कर लेते हैं गाइस थर्ड स्टेटमेंट के बारे में बात कर लेते हैं वो क्यों गलत है उसको भी देख लेते हैं फटाफट से मच ऑफ द अर्थ्स आयरन हैज एस्केप एज अ रिजल्ट ऑफ एक्स्ट्रा टेरेस्ट्रियल इम्पैक्ट ठीक है ये भी बात बिल्कुल सही ये भी बात बिल्कुल सही नहीं है क्योंकि वो अगर एस्केप हो गया होता तो कोर में कहां से जाता while extraterrestrial impacts were significant on early earth history they did not cause a substantial loss of earth's iron to the space अर्थ का जो आयरन था वो कोर में गया if anything early impacts would have added material including iron to the earth the differentiation process involved iron sinking within the earth not escaping from it the statement is incorrect तो ये भी हमारा इनकरेक्ट स्टेटमेंट है इसको भी साइड कर दें क्योंकि आपको लॉजिक पता होना चाहिए सबका फोर्थ वन विच दे आर सेइंग दैट आयरन इज अ रेयर इन अर्थ या रेयर क्यों अच्छी खासी क्वांटिटी में है अगर अर्थ को एज अ होल यूनिट मानूं तो सबसे ज्यादा आयरन ही हमने पढ़ा है फीओ सीमा NSC ऑल राइट अगर अर्थ को एज अ कंप्लीट यूनिट मानता हूं तो आयरन इज अ रेयर इन अर्थ ये स्टेटमेंट के ऊपर भी लाइट डालेंगे आयरन इज एक्चुअली वन ऑफ द मोस्ट अबंडेंट एलिमेंट इन अर्थ राइट अगर आप अर्थ को एज अ होल यूनिट मानेंगे मैंने स्ट्रक्चर ऑफ अर्थ में पढ़ाया था especially when considering the entire planet's composition it is primarily constituent of the core which makes up a significant portion of the earth's volume and the statement is incorrect so now you can differentiate that why the first option is correct that there is more iron in the core than the crust because differentiation density के basis पे हुआ था so now you can say that based on the explanation of the iron catastrophe the concentration of most of the iron is in its core is the direct consequence and most prominent reflection of this event आयरन कैटास्ट्रॉफ का सिग्निफिकेंस ही ये है कि सबसे ज्यादा आयरन आपका कोर में है देन एनीवेयर एल्स बिकॉज ऑफ डेंसिटी डिफरेंस so there is more iron in the core than in the crust the 132 is first क्लियर है सबको जल्दी बताइए फटाफट से इज दिस क्लियर आज सब समाप्त हो जाएगा ठीक है कुछ नहीं बचेगा आपके सामने सामने ही ठीक है चलिए नाउ लेट्स मूव टू क्वेश्चन नंबर 133 ठीक है which is also a easy question because earlier also the satellite sensor have been asked ठीक है तो पहले भी पूछे गए हैं प्रीवियस ईयर से मिलता जुलता ही क्वेश्चन है और ये बुकलेट के अंदर है जो लिस सेंसर है लाइव लीनियर इमेजिंग सेल्फ स्कैनिंग जो सेंसर है ये मैंने अपने लेक्चर्स में पढ़ाया हुआ है GIS एंड रिमोट सेंसिंग के और सबसे तकड़ा हिंट इसमें यही था कि जो इंडियन रिमोट सेंसिंग सैटेलाइट 1D है उसमें लिस सेंसर है, ठीक है। तो जैसे ही आप लिस को पकड़ते हैं यहाँ पे, सो फॉर एग्जांपल इफ यू टॉक अबाउट क्वेश्चन नंबर 133, फर्स्ट वी हैव बीन गिवन सेंसर एंड देन वी हैव बीन गिवन सैटेलाइट। तो जब आप लिस सेंसर की बात करते हैं तो लिस सेंसर का सबसे बढ़िया एग्जांपल जो IRS-1D है, इंडियन रिमोट सेंसिंग सैटेलाइट, राइट, 1D जो था उसके अंदर लिस सेंसर था। मुझे ये पता है, मेरी बुकलेट में भी लिखा हुआ है, सबसे अच्छा हिंट यही है यहाँ पे, राइट। जैसे ही आपको ये हिंट मिलता है, दो ऑप्शन तो गए, क्योंकि इनमें C4 है ही नहीं, सॉरी, एक ही ऑप्शन में है, बल्कि वो पूछना ही ये चाह रहा था आपसे, एक ही ऑप्शन में है ऐसा जहाँ पे C4 है आपका लिस्ट सेंसर जो IRS-1D में होता है। तो ये तो बहुत ही आसान क्वेश्चन था। अगर आपने ये भी आइडेंटिफाई कर लिया होता कि लिस्ट सेंसर जो IRS-1D का स्पेशल फीचर है, तो आपने इस क्वेश्चन को जीत लिया था गाइस, आपको जरूरत ही नहीं पड़ती। ठीक है, थर्ड जो ऑप्शन है आपका, है ना, इसमें C4 है। ए विच इज मल्टी स्पेक्ट्रल इंस्ट्रूमेंट गोज विथ 3 विच इज सेंटिनल 2, अभी बात करेंगे इनके बारे में, सेंटिनल 2। बी विच इज हाई रेजोल्यूशन रेडियोमीटर VHRR, है ना, इनसेट 2। देन सी इज बेसिकली 4 एंड डी विच इज मल्टी एंगल इमेजिंग स्पेक्ट्रोमीटर, माइजर जिसको आप बोलते हो, एक्वा टेरा सैटेलाइट जो है मोडिस के, ठीक है, मोडिस जो है आपका मॉडरेट इमेजिंग, ठीक है ना। तो रेडियो स्पेक्ट्रोमीटर जो है आपका, जिसमें एक्वा टेरा दो सैटेलाइट होते हैं, ठीक है। तो फोर्थ जो आपका डी है दैट इज बेसिकली बिलोंगिंग टू टेरा, टेरा जो सैटेलाइट उसमें होती है उसका ये फीचर होता है। मोडिस बेसिकली फायर काउंट को मेजर करने के लिए सैटेलाइट होता है, जो आपको फायर काउंट्स के नंबर बताता है। तो करेक्ट आंसर तो 3 है, पर हम इन चीजों के बारे में थोड़ी सी डिस्कशन जरूर करेंगे, क्योंकि दे आर गुड एंड दे कैन बी आस्क अगेन, व्हाई दीज ऑन लेफ्ट द थिंग्स व्हिच आर गिवन लाइक मल्टी स्पेक्ट्रल इंस्ट्रूमेंट। तो मल्टी स्पेक्ट्रल नाम से क्लियर है कि एक स्पेक्ट्रा नहीं होगा, बहुत सारे होंगे। तो मल्टी स्पेक्ट्रल इंस्ट्रूमेंट व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट, वी शुड से दैट multispectral instrument MSI is the primary instrument of the Sentinel-2 mission of European Space Agency ESA जो है आपकी। It provide high resolution multispectral imagery with 13 spectral band, एक नहीं है 13 बैंड है, covering visible and near infrared and short wave infrared regions. It has a varying spatial resolution of 10, 20 and 60 मीटर, अलग अलग तरह का रेजोल्यूशन, एंड कॉम्बिनेशन ऑफ बैंड इज क्रूशियल फॉर द लैंड मॉनिटरिंग, वेजिटेशन ऑफ सॉइल, वाटर कवर, कोस्टल एरिया को आप कर सकते हैं, एंड यूज फॉर लैंड मॉनिटरिंग इंक्लूडिंग वेजिटेशन, सॉइल, वाटर बॉडीज। तो इसके फंक्शन भी हमने बता दिए कि कहाँ कहाँ ये यूज होता है, तो आपको थोड़े माइंड में रखने पड़ेंगे कि जो मल्टी स्पेक्ट्रल बैंड है वो Sentinel-2 में है, और मल्टी स्पेक्ट्रल इंस्ट्रूमेंट जो MSI है वो Sentinel-2 में है आपका, और Sentinel-2 से क्या क्या आप कर सकते हैं ये आपको दिमाग में रखना है कि क्या क्या हो सकता है ना, क्योंकि ये दोबारा भी आपसे पूछे जा सकते हैं, मैं आपको बता रहा हूँ। ठीक है, टीचर इज रियली वेरी स्मार्ट। द सेकेंड वन इज VHRR, वेरी हाई रेजोल्यूशन रेडियोमीटर, जो मैंने आपको बताया कि जो VHRR है ना, वो आपका इनसेट 2 में है। तो ये भी देख सकते हैं कि VHRR क्या है, वेरी हाई रेजोल्यूशन रेडियोमीटर। ये कहाँ होता है जी, क्या करता है? तो VHR इज एन इंस्ट्रूमेंट प्राइमरली फाउंड ऑन जियो स्टेशनरी मेट्रोलॉजिकल सैटेलाइट। जियो स्टेशनरी सैटेलाइट वो होते हैं जिनका टाइम पीरियड ऑफ रिवोल्यूशन इज सेम दैट ऑफ अर्थ, राइट, है ना, 24 आवर। तो जियो स्टेशनरी उनको बोलते हैं, ठीक है। और ये मैंने पढ़ाया भी है, जियो स्टेशनरी, जियो सिंक्रोनस, अपने लेक्चर में, सच एज इनसेट सीरीज एंड अर्लियर नोवा, राइट। तो satellite as AVHSR and advanced VHSR, its the main purpose is meteorological observation। ये मीटरोलॉजी के डाटा को आपको प्रोवाइड करता है, प्रोवाइडिंग वैल्यूएबल ऑब्जर्वेशन ऑफ टेम्परेचर, क्लाउड कवर, विंड एंड रिलेटेड वेदर फिनोमेना। इट्स टिपिकली हैज विजिबल एंड IR बैंड। फॉर एग्जांपल जो आपका इनसेट 1 है ना, इट हैड रेजोल्यूशन ऑफ 2.7 किलोमीटर विजिबल, 11 किलोमीटर फॉर IR बैंड, एंड दीज आर रिलेटिवली कोर्स रेजोल्यूशन फॉर लैंड सरफेस मैपिंग कंपेयर टू डेडिकेटेड रिमोट सेंसिंग सैटेलाइट, but suitable for large scale weather monitoring। VHHR is meteorological sensor on इनसेट सीरीज। ये आपको ध्यान रखना है कि VHHR जो सेंसर था वो आपकी इनसेट सैटेलाइट की जो सीरीज थी उसके अंदर बहुत फेमस हुआ, राइट। एंड इनसेट 2E का नाम स्पेशली हाईलाइट होता है यहाँ पे, इंक्लूडिंग इनसेट 2E, इट्स यूज फॉर वेदर ऑब्जर्वेशन, क्लाउड इमेजिंग एंड टेम्परेचर डाटा। तो ये ध्यान रखना है स्पेसिफिक फंक्शन की कहाँ यूज हो रहे हैं। देन ये तो मैंने आपको बता ही दिया है कि लिस्ट जो सेंसर है वो इंडियन रिमोट सेंसिंग सैटेलाइट IRS 1D है ना, 1A 1B 1C 1D जो था, इसमें ये पढ़ाया भी है मैंने। जनरेशन जो है आपकी पहली बुकलेट में दी हुई है, जो 4 लेक्चर वाला है हमारा, उसमें दी हुई है। अली सर ने भी ये बताया होगा आपको, जो कि बैंड है और आपके रेजोल्यूशन है, तो इसको थोड़ा ध्यान से आपको देखना है। लीनियर इमेजिंग सेल्फ स्कैनिंग लिस्ट 3। तो लिस्ट 3 is an optical sensor flown on Indian IRS, Indian Remote Sensing Satellite, specifically on resource set 1 and resource set 2, and it is also known for the moderate spatial resolution। 23.5 मीटर इसका रेजोल्यूशन होता है। ये रेजोल्यूशन भी पूछा गया एक बार पुराने पेपर्स में। एंड कवर 4 स्पेक्ट्रल बैंड, ग्रीन, रेड एंड नियर इंफ्रारेड एंड शॉर्ट वेव, है ना, SWIR होता है। इट इज एक्सटेंसिवली यूज फॉर लैंड रिसोर्स मैनेजमेंट एंड एग्रीकल्चरल मॉनिटरिंग एंड फॉरेस्ट्री। तो कहाँ इस्तेमाल होता है वो भी आपको पता होना चाहिए, ये जरूरी है बहुत ज्यादा जानना। देन इन लास्ट वी हैव द मल्टी एंगल इमेजिंग स्पेक्ट्रोमीटर, माइजर जो आप बोलते हो, माइजर है आपका, जो इसको आप बोलते हो कि सेंसर का नाम। तो मल्टी एंगल इमेजिंग स्पेक्ट्रो रेडियोमीटर, MISR, माइजर बोलते हैं आप उसको। तो इट इज एन इंस्ट्रूमेंट ऑन बोर्ड नासा टेरा सैटेलाइट, जो मैंने बताया पार्ट ऑफ अर्थ ऑब्जर्वेशन सिस्टम, EOS का सिस्टम का पार्ट है। इट्स यूनिक फीचर इज द एबिलिटी टू इमेजिन द अर्थ फ्रॉम 9 डिफरेंट व्यूइंग एंगल्स। 9 एंगल से ये आपको दे सकता है इमेज। 1 नादिर, 4 फॉरवर्ड एंड 4 आफ्टरवर्ड्स, 4 आगे 4 पीछे, ठीक है, और एक नादिर पॉइंट से, in 4 spectral band, and this multi-angle capability is crucial for studying atmospheric aerosol, cloud type, height, movement, and land surface properties, especially their bidirectional reflectance distribute functional BRDF. MISR is aboard NASA Terra satellite, and it captures the imaging of multi-angle to study the cloud, aerosol, and surface feature. तो ये आपको थोड़ा थोड़ा इनके बारे में जान लेना जरूरी है, क्योंकि दोबारा से अगर ये मैचिंग आती है आपको रेजोल्यूशन वाली, तो आपको पता होना चाहिए कि भाई ये कहाँ है, कैसे है। सो द करेक्ट आंसर फॉर 133 इज, और ये रिपीटेड है क्वेश्चन, ये लगभग सभी सेंसर जो है पहले पूछे जा चुके हैं पुराने पेपरों में, अगर आप उठा के देखोगे। और बुकलेट से ही है ये क्वेश्चन, मैं आपको बताता हूँ। बुकलेट की लाइंस अगर आपने पढ़ रखी हैं, छोटे वाला जो मेरा कोर्स है जीएस रिमोट सेंसिंग, अगर वो किया हुआ है, तो उससे ये क्वेश्चन आपका रिजॉल्व हो जाता है। करेक्ट आंसर हियर विल बी थर्ड। सबसे अच्छा हिंट इसमें लिस्ट का ही था, कि लीनियर इमेजिंग सेल्फ स्कैनिंग जो आपका सेंसर है, दैट इज अ वेरी पिकुलियर फीचर ऑफ IRS 1D। ठीक है, ये ध्यान रखना है। क्लियर है सबको? 133 जल्दी बताइए फटाफट से, क्विकली गाइस। 133 क्लियर है सबको? क्विकली जल्दी बताइए भाई, इतना टाइम नहीं लगाना है, ठीक है। अब देखिए, दिस वाज नॉट दैट मच टफ काइंड ऑफ पेपर, अगर आप देखें ना, सो इट इज देयर, लाइक all the elements were there. So let's have a look at question number 134, which is very easy, very old question, very famous question. When you burn the coal, you have the emission of CO2, you have the emission of NOx, you have the emission of, like, a simple logic. Whenever you burn coal, I have told multiple times, and this question is also came multiple times. When coal burn, we see the emission of SO2, we see the emission of CO2, we see the emission of carbon monoxide, we see the emission of NOx, which is NO plus NO2, but never ever you will see the emission of ammonia, to be very frank, right? And if it is there, that negligible or insignificant, so that is the question which they have asked in 134, right? Particulate matter is also there if they ask. So they ask which of the following is emitted in least amount when the coal is burned. So the correct answer here is ammonia. So the correct answer is 2, because ammonia will be least or not significant. Ammonia will be least, right? Right. So that will be the correct answer, like ammonia will be least, rest of the particles can be more. So that's why we have chosen the correct option as ammonia for 134. You can see here we have mentioned each and every detail. That is the benefit of reading this solution, that coal is primarily composed of carbon, but it is also containing varying amount of hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, sulfur, and other trace elements. And when coal is burned, combusted, these elements react with oxygen to form the air, different gaseous product. SO2, yes, a huge amount is emitted, right? So coal often contains sulfur. When coal is burned, then the sulfur reacts with oxygen to form sulfur dioxide. significant air pollutant contribute to acid rain, respiratory problem. Amount emitted to the sulfur content of the coal is quite good, depends upon the quality. Ammonia. So ammonia is generally not emitted. Why we choose ammonia? So ammonia is generally not direct combustion product of coal in significant amount, while nitrogen is present in the coal and leads to the formation of NOx. Ammonia is not a primary gas release during the standard combustion process of coal. It is more commonly associated with the agricultural emission or certain industrial process. So that's why we have chosen ammonia, right? Then CO2, yes, it is there. Whenever the combustion will be there, it will also be there. So that's why the CO2 is one of the option. Coal is fossil fuel and primarily component is carbon. When the carbon is burned, it reacts with oxygen and gives CO2. CO2 is the most abundant greenhouse gas emitted from the coal combustion. And it is the main driver of climate change. All of you are aware with that. And the last option, but not the least option, is NOx, which is also having coal containing nitrogen during combustion, high temperature. Both the nitrogen in the coal and nitrogen in the combustion air reacts with oxygen to form NOx, like NO, NO2, collectively called NOx. And these are also significant air pollutant contributed to smoke, photochemical smoke, and acid rain in the form of HNO3. So that's why for 134 we have chosen ammonia, because ammonia is nowhere in the picture. Is that clear to each and every one? Question number 134. Quickly, guys. We will be winding up everything today. All these questions are very simple, not that tough. And I believe if you stick to this solution for at least 5 years, then things will change. Right. Coming to the next question, which is 135. So this is a question with something like, I would say, if the people are more towards the like more on experimental basis, then they were able to answer it, otherwise not. Right. So let's first understand the options which are given here, like these logit regression, exponential smoothing, moving average, and auto regression, what these terms are. So let's talk about these things, that what they are. And we are talking about univariate data having one variable. Univariate is having one variable. So let's talk about them. So the first, which is they are like they have mentioned about logit regression, right? Or we can say logistic regression. So logistic is something which I have told you in sigmoid curve, something like that kind of curve, logistic regression, right? Pattern is something like that. So it is basically used for the classification problems, either say yes or no or 0 or 1, and it require multiple predictors, can be univariate but usually multivariate. So this is used for multivariate. That's why it will not be a choice. Logistic regression is for multivariate data. More than one variables are there. Then it's not primarily used for univariate time series modeling. So this option is gone. This could not be a choice for univariate, right? Then we have exponential smoothing. So exponential, you know that y is equal to e to the power x. That is something you talk in exponential equation. Y is equal to e to the power x. If I talk about where y is dependent upon the x, right? So this is something, a curve you might have studied in your 11th and 12th while studying this. So here also we can see that so exponential smoothing, a univariate time series model. This is something which you can use for univariate, and perfectly suited for univariate, used for forecast future values based on the past observation, like we do in the weather research forecasting model, which is WRF, and it is appropriate for univariate. So this is the most appropriate choice as per the answer is there. Then we have the moving average, right? So moving average is something like with time series when you take the average. So part of the classical time series model, right? Which is ARIMA, and average past value to smooth the functions. Like we will be taking the average of the data available, right? And then we will fit a line. The future में trend कैसा दिखना चाहिए. And then we have the auto regression also, which have been one of the option, auto regression. So forecast the future values using linear combination of past values. Like you can predict the data on the basis of past data available, like you see in the forecast. Like if I would say 23 June 2024, what was the value of humidity, temperature, and pressure? Then I can predict for the next year. So a classical univariate model in time series analysis, right? But here we use the time series analysis, right? So now we can see that for univariate, which one are suitable. So only B, C and D are suitable for univariate data, right? The first one which was there is logistic is for multivariate data. So this is for multivariate logistic regression. If you talk about, this is for multivariate data, right? So rest are suitable for univariate. So we can club them. B, C and D are good for univariate. So the correct answer will be having B, C and D because we are looking for univariate data only. So that's why they are mentioned in the question, like question number 135, identify the models that are appropriate for univariate data. So we will be having exponential smoothing, which is univariate, moving average is univariate, autoregression is univariate. So correct answer here is 2, which is B, C and D. So the correct answer for this question will be B, C and D. So keep that in mind because sometimes they ask you that which among the following is fit for multivariate, right? Or single options can also be there. Is that clear to each and everyone? 135 quickly, guys. Question number 135 clear to each and everyone quickly. Anyone having any doubt in question number 135? Clear? Yeah, because logic should be very clear. Otherwise, there is no point of giving this solution to you people. Now coming to the next question, which is 136 and one of my favorite, all-time favorite. It is available in our lecture, available in booklet, available in your notes. Multiple times this question have been asked. I will solve by looking at it from two methods, right? Which I used to say, like I am standing here, right? Like I am standing here, right? And you can say that I am standing here. A noise level meter placed at a distance of 5 meters. So first I am at 5 meter, which is R1, right? And the sound intensity is 78 dB, right? Which is basically L1 loudness. Then I saw in a different direction. Then what is the sound? 20 meter, that is R2 distance, and I have to find out the L2. So here there is a simple formula which we have derived from the inverse square law in the noise. All those 5 lectures have this problem. So simply you will write down, and it is L2 is equal to L1 minus 20 log of R2 by R1. So the moment you will put the values, you will automatically know that L2 is equal to L1 is 78 dB minus 20 log R2 is basically 20 and R1 is 5, which comes out to be 4. So it will be 78 20 log of 4. So log 4 is basically 2 log 2. So it will become 78 minus of 20, 2 log 2. Log 2 is 0.3010. So it comes out to be 78 minus 20 into 0.6, which comes out to be 78 minus 12, which comes out to be 6. So 66 dB is the correct answer. This was the very simple question. This was by a formula. That with a formula you can do this. Another approach is whenever you have a point source, which is in this case point source, underline the point source. In the case of the point source, for each doubling of the distance, there is a reduction of 3 dB. So you can solve it orally also. See, you can solve it orally also. Whenever you double the distance, there is a decrease in 3 dB. So 5 meter I was having 78. When you make 10 decrease by 3 dB, it will become 75, right? When you will make 15, right, then how much it will become? How much it will become? Then subtract 3, it will become, sorry, 6. Yes, you are right. It is 6. Line source is 3 dB, point source is 6 dB. Yeah, absolutely right. Point source is 6 dB. So first it will be 72. Then when you will do doubling of this 10 to 20, it will become 66. So both the ways you can do. Yes, for point source it is 6 dB decrease if you double the distance. For line source, yes, for line source we have 3 dB. And formula for line source here become like if you are given line source, then the formula will become L2 is equal to L1 minus 10 log of R2 by R1. Formula will also modify for line source, right? Line source will be a single line which is 10. So both the way you can solve, right? That is your choice, and it is well taught in the lecture which is available in the cloud for noise. So well taught in the class. So rest of the things are given here, but you can directly do that. This is the formula. Rest is the explanation which I gave you for like you should not have any problem in solving it. But those who know a bit of log can easily solve it. Other people also can solve it by this point source and line source. Like if for point source, whenever you double the distance, 6 dB decrease for each doubling of distance, right? For line source 3 dB decrease for each doubling of distance. तो आप वैसे भी solve कर सकते हैं. You can solve that way also. Same thing we have explained here, like how it comes 66, like we have mentioned here. For point source, every doubling of distance 6 dB, right? So when you 5 to 10, then it will become 72. From 10 to 20, it will become 66. And if it would have been line source, then it will be 3 dB. If those people who are not good at applying the numericals. Moving ahead, let's go to question number 137. This was done in the class by Manisha Webb while teaching EIA and all. So let's have a look that which are in category A, right? So let's have a look at question number 137. So as per the notification 2006, see, they will mention you whether they are asking on 2006 or 2020. So you have to keep in mind whether it is 2020 guidelines or whether it is a guidelines of 2006. Then which of the following project or activities are categorized as category A? So let me tell you, category A is basically nuclear power projects and rayon fiber manufacturing units which are there, and cement plant of more than 1 million tons. Here they have given less than 1 million tons, so this will be wrong. This cannot be in that category. If it have been more than 1 million tons or annual production capacity, then it will come into the category A. So the correct answer here would be nuclear power projects which are in category A and rayon fiber manufacturing. If this would have been more than 1 million tons, cement plant will also come into A if I am not wrong. But this should have been more than 1 million tons, right? Ma'am have shared that document also with you from where this question have been taken, right? Common municipal solid waste management facility is not in category A. But if the cement production and the symbol is like this, more than 1 million tons, then it become category A, right? But यहाँ पे less है, that's why this option is wrong. And the correct answer for this question is basically 2, where A and C is there. You will see the explanation why A and C. So the correct answer is A and C only, right? Yes, yes. अभी तो B1 में आएगा, less than दिया हुआ है ना, less than दिया हुआ है इसलिए, right? So we can see here. Let me explain you why it is so. So understanding the EIA notification 2006 in India, the EIA notification 2006 issued by Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, MOFCC, Government of India categorized the project into two main categories based on their potential environmental impacts and requirement for environmental clearance. Well taught by Manisha ma'am in this topic. So category A, why category A and why category B? So category A project, D project require environmental clearance from central government. All of you know that under MOEFCC. And they are considered to have a significant potential environmental impact and are assessed as the national level by Expert Appraisal Committee, EAC. You all are aware. Then we have the category B projects, right? These projects require environmental clearance from the state, union, territory level environmental impact assessment committee, SIA. And they are further subcategorized into B1 and B2. So B1 require full EIA, B2 not required. This question have been asked multiple times. that who do not require EIA. तो B2 is the one who do not require, but B1 require. B1 is required EIA, right? B2 do not require, right? And then you can see that which are under which category. So as mentioned here, you can see that nuclear power projects are inherently large scale, high impact and strategically important. So they are under A category. Then cement plant of more than 1 million tons, annual project capacity, they are under A category, but here they have given less than 1, right? So if equal to and greater than this category, then A, and below this threshold under B. तो यहाँ पे दो कैटेगरी है कि अगर greater than or equal to होगा 1 million tons, then they will fall under the category A. If less than or equal to 1 million ton, then under the category B. And third is rayon fiber, category A, because this involve hazardous material when while manufacturing it. And then common municipal solid waste, which is under category B. So you can easily take a decision after having a look into the options that who is what. So the correct answer here will be only nuclear power projects and rayon fiber manufacturing are under category A. So these two are the correct answer, and hence A and C only in option 2. The correct answer for 137 is 2. Is that clear to each and everyone? Quickly, guys. Quickly, because we are about to finish everything, right? And logically we have discussed, and I hope by now you have digested most of the question with logic, right? Or because we used to discuss 10 question a day. So hopefully everyone have studied them with me. That was the only objective, right? Then coming to question number 138, this is a very easy question, and you might have corrected it if you have seen the good news channels in COVID duration. This was a GK based question, not the actual one. तो अगर आपने कोविड में अच्छे से टीवी देखा तो you could have done this question correct, right? But some people might have not seen. So question number 137, terms in epidemiology, right? So and then description, right? So what are the terms we use in epidemiology, right? What is actually epidemiology, guys? See, whenever you study the distribution pattern and the factors which cause a disease, right, in a given population, that is what we call epidemiology, right? We have to study the causative agents, the pattern and the distribution of disease, like we see in COVID. That is basically called, that branch is called epidemiology. Here a lot of things have been mentioned, but I would say vector was one of the hint, right? Like we say, who is the vector, right? Like female anopheles mosquito, right? Which is for your dengue, I guess, right? So वो आपको ध्यान रखना है. Then we have or Aedes mosquito, I guess. But you should see the vector. Vector is basically what? Vector is basically a living agent which transfer the disease from one place to another place. My motive is that. ठीक है? हाँ, vehicle आपका नॉन लिविंग होता है, सॉरी. वेक्टर इज द लिविंग एजेंट विच ट्रांसफर द डिजीज, है ना? तो आपसे पूछा जाता है कि भाई इसका वेक्टर कौन है, ठीक है? तो वेक्टर मतलब जो वो फैला रहा है उसको. तो वेक्टर इज बेसिकली द लिविंग एजेंट दैट ट्रांसफर द पैथोजन. जैसे आपका मॉस्किटोज है, ठीक है ना? तो मॉस्किटो जो है एक तरह के आपके वेक्टर है जो लेके जाते हैं, है ना? आप बोलते हैं ना फीमेल एनोफिलीज मॉस्किटो है, इससे हो रहा है, या एडीज मॉस्किटो है, इससे हो रहा है. तो वेक्टर है एक तरह के. देन वी वर हैविंग व्हीकल. व्हीकल इज द नॉन लिविंग सोर्स. ये ध्यान रखना, वेक्टर और व्हीकल में यही फर्क होता है. व्हीकल नॉन लिविंग है. ये आप ऐसे भी अंदाजा लगा सकते हो कि जो व्हीकल होता है उसमें जान तो होती नहीं है, कार बस या ट्रक में, ठीक है? दे आर नॉन लिविंग. ऐसा देखा जाए तो ठीक है, वो चलते हैं, वो बात अलग है, बट कोई सेंस तो नहीं है ना ह्यूमन बीइंग या एनिमल की तरह. तो व्हीकल इज बेसिकली व्हाट? नॉन लिविंग सोर्स विच ट्रांसमिट द पैथोजन टू लार्ज नंबर ऑफ इंडिविजुअल, राइट, है ना? तो वो एक आपको होना चाहिए था. Then we were having carrier. Carrier is any individual which is infected but symptoms are not appearing, कि भाई कैरी कर रहा है और लोगों को पता नहीं चल रहा, कि पॉजिटिव नहीं आ रहा पर है इसके अंदर, ठीक है। तो कैरियर इज सब क्लिनिकली इन्फेक्टेड इंडिविजुअल, की कंडीशन तो है पर एक्चुअली क्लियर नहीं हो रही, सिम्टम नहीं आ रहे अभी, है ना। हाँ, इनएनिमेट भी होता है, बिल्कुल सही बात है, ठीक है। तो क्लिनिकली इन्फेक्टेड इंडिविजुअल, सब क्लिनिकली इन्फेक्टेड इंडिविजुअल, जो क्लियरिटी नहीं हो रही। उसके अलावा क्या होता है कि फोमाइट एक टर्म होती है आपकी, फोमाइट। तो फोमाइट इज बेसिकली एनी नॉन लिविंग ऑब्जेक्ट, जैसे मान लीजिए कोई बास्केट है, ज्योमेट्री बॉक्स है, कोई पर्स है, कोई ग्लास है, कोई स्पून है। तो पैथोजन कंटेमिनेटेड इनएनिमेट ऑब्जेक्ट, जैसे होता है ना कि बहुत सी बीमारियों में कि इसके जब आप क्वारंटीन करते थे तो उसका ग्लास कप चम्मच सब अलग रहेगा, जो कोविड वाला बंदा है, राइट। तो ये मेन चीज आपको यहाँ पे ध्यान रखनी थी, दैट फोमाइट इज द पैथोजन कंटेमिनेटेड इनएनिमेट ऑब्जेक्ट, की पैथोजन उसके ऊपर लगा हुआ है, ठीक है, कंटेमिनेट है वो, और नॉन लिविंग ऑब्जेक्ट है। सो दैट्स वाई C2। So we will see the explanation of them. The correct answer here would be 2, right? The correct answer here would be 2. हाँ, डोर नॉब, बिल्कुल सही बात है, उससे भी फैल सकता है। तो correct answer here will be 2. Let's see the more detailed explanation why the 2 have been taken for 138. तो यहाँ पे हमने सबको लगभग एक्सप्लेन किया कि व्हीकल क्या होता है। तो व्हीकल आपको पता चल ही गया, आपकी नॉन लिविंग होता है जो ट्रांसफर करता है। A vehicle refers to non-living source like contaminated water, food or air that transmit the pathogen to a large number of individuals, right? उसके अलावा कैरियर आपको पता ही है, कैरियर क्या होता है। तो कैरियर इज बेसिकली इज एन इंडिविजुअल हु इज इन्फेक्टेड विद अ पैथोजन बट डज नॉट शो सिम्टम, मतलब पता नहीं चलेगा आपको, सब क्लिनिकली इन्फेक्टेड कहते हैं उसको, मतलब दिख नहीं रहा कि इसको एक्चुअली में है ना। जैसे किसी का कोविड टेस्ट पॉजिटिव नहीं आता था, फिर सीरम वाला कराते थे तो आता था पॉजिटिव, राइट। देन वी हैव फोमाइट। White मैंने बता दिया आपको, is an inanimate object like doorknob, towel, toy that has been contaminated with pathogen and can transfer to the new host, right? But inanimate होगा, non living होगा। Then we have the vector. Vector तो मैंने बता ही दिया आपको, मॉस्किटो का एग्जांपल देके कि लेके घूम रहा है। तो vector is a living agent like an insect or animal that transmit a pathogen from one infected host to a susceptible host। तो क्वेश्चन ये इजी था, बट आप थोड़ा सा जीके नॉलेज इसकी थोड़ी अच्छी थी बच्चे की, वो इसको कर पाया। So the correct answer for 138 would be 2. 2 will be the correct answer here, right? I hope it is clear to each and every one 138. सबको क्लियर है? जल्दी बताइए फटाफट, किसी को कोई डाउट तो नहीं है इसमें? Anyone having any doubt in 138? Quickly guys. Okay, let's move to the next question, which is question number 139. This is directly from our booklet. I will give you a clear cut hint, right? So where I have taught you the CO2 compensation point, right? Or what you say, CO2 fertilization effect, that there is an increase in the rate of photosynthesis in C3 plant, where I taught you in that box in air pollution and climate change, with effect of the climate change. So question number 139, one list organism, another with associated process. मेरे पास सबसे solid hint guys यहाँ पे एक ही था. One was the very solid hint that for C3 plant, increase in the rate of photosynthesis with increase in the CO2 concentration, which I have taught you in the CO2 fertilization effect, that the first benefit goes to C3 plant, right? So this was a very good hint to catch this question, that A belongs to 2. The moment you say A belongs to 2, the 2 options are gone, because I am 100% sure that A belongs to 2. That is written in my booklet. Then these options are gone. Now another hint here is the counteracting part, which is the C4 species, the counteracting part with another hint, because rest of the 2 hints, they belongs to 11th and 12th class, not here. They are from like evolutionary part, which is given for NEET people and all. सो यू शुड कैच दिस C4, क्योंकि हम तो C4 C3 का कंपैरिजन पढ़ते हैं लेक्चर में. So insignificant change in the rate of photosynthesis will increase in CO2 concentration. I have taught you it multiple times that C3 will show increase and there will be an insignificant increase. So B goes to 1 and A goes to 2. A goes to 2 and B goes to 1. Here it is a tie. Then you know, then you have to turn up the pages that where to whom. So A goes to 2, B goes to 1. Then C, birds and bat. How you can see? Both of them fly. Both of them fly. So it is a sort of like convergent evolution, right? Because they have functionally similar organism like wings of bats and wings of bird. So it is a very typical example of convergent evolution. There are two types of evolution, convergent and divergent, right? So convergent evolution का ये बहुत अच्छा example है birds and bats का, राइट जहां पे आप एनालॉगस ऑर्गन्स का एग्जांपल देते हैं और होमोलोगस ऑर्गन्स का एग्जांपल देते हैं. तो करेक्ट आंसर हियर विल बी लाइक birds and bat will go to convergent evolution, which is C goes to 4, and marsupial, which is your kangaroos, marsupial and placental mammal are examples of parallel evolution. ये सब नीट में बहुत पढ़ाया जाता है, ठीक है. तो दैट इज द एग्जांपल ऑफ पैरेलल इवोल्यूशन इफ यू रिमेंबर. सो दिस वे यू कुड हैव आंसर इट, राइट. यहां से आपको आंसर ये कैच हो सकता था कि birds and bat are having convergent evolution, right? Analogous and homologous organ जो होते हैं कि structurally same है, functionally different, and functionally same है, structurally different, then it is analogous. So that's why the correct answer here would be 4, that A belongs to 2, B belongs to 1, C belongs to 4, and D belongs to 3. So the correct option is the fourth option for 139, right? 139, it is fourth option, but we will explain all of them why we have taken fourth choice as the correct answer, which should ideally be explained. Fourth is the correct choice for 139. So let's have a look at, but see, the first two options you are well aware that why C3 plant, because they are the most abundant plant. 95% तो यही है, C3 plant are less efficient in utilizing CO2, higher concentration compared to C4 plant. Their photosynthesis rate can significantly increase in CO2 concentration, right? That is for C3 plant. Then the second is C4 plant, they do not have very significant increase. C4 plant CO2 concentration mechanism that allow them to maintain a high rate of photosynthesis even a low atmospheric CO2 concentration. Once CO2 is saturated in the system, further increase in the CO2 concentration have insignificant effect on photosynthetic rate. So this is very clear. But rest of the two options should be also very clear to you, that birds and bat, when you talk about and you say they are like convergent evolution, how? So birds and bat both fly. Both birds and bat have evolved ability to fly independently. However, they are not closely related evolutionary. Birds and reptile, bats and mammal, and they develop of similar structure, wings for similar function, like both of them used for flying purpose. And distantly related groups is an example of convergent evolution, right? So that's why birds and bats, both the wings are example of convergent evolution. Then we have the marsupial and placental mammals like kangaroos and all placental mammals which are here. So marsupial of Australia, we say, and placental mammal have evolved along the separate line after diverging from common ancestor. We think that they have the common ancestor. While they share a common mammalian ancestor, they have adapted to similar ecological niches in different geographical regions, leading to the development of familiar forms of structure independently, and they are example of parallel evolution, when two distinct species evolve similar traits after diverging from common ancestor. So this is also called as parallel evolution या divergent evolution भी इसको कहते हैं हम, ठीक है. तो ये ध्यान रखिएगा क्योंकि ये नीट से पिक किया गया है, डाइवर्जेंट इवोल्यूशन इसको कहते हैं. आप कह लीजिए कि गेट इकोलॉजी इवोल्यूशन का इनपुट है इसके अंदर, इस क्वेश्चन में वहां भी आ चुका है एक बार. इज इट क्लियर? 139 logically clear to each and everyone, right? Because these birds and bats and marsupial placental mammals are written in 11th and 12th NCERT, nothing else. So that's why they have picked up directly. और कुछ नहीं है इसके पीछे, ठीक है. जब मैंने क्वेश्चन देखा था तो मुझे ये बात पता थी कि यहाँ से पिक किया गया है. The last objective question, let's have a look, and after that we will go to the passages. This was a very simple question. That day when I was teaching you ecology, I told you that when we say the a species originate, so species origin of a species basically involve reproductive isolation as well as natural selection. Without both of them, it cannot happen. So third would be the correct answer. Natural selection when it is coupled with reproductive isolation. I will not go only with for natural selection, reproductive isolation. No, because I told you in ecology when I was teaching that reproductive isolation causes sympatric speciation, while geographical isolation causes allopatric speciation. ये आपको याद रखना है that geographical causes allopatric speciation and reproductive isolation cause sympatric speciation. Right? This question could again be asked. Let me warn you. Then let's have a look why it is there. Right? Why it is so. So let's just put a light on speciation and natural selection and these geographical isolation which I have told you. So speciation, all of you are aware, we have taught you this in ecology in the last section, that speciation is the evolutionary process by which new biological species arise, and it involves divergence of population into two or more distinct species. I told you that splitting and the budding are the two different types. Natural selection, all of you are aware that after variation and survival of fittest, after variation survival of fittest, there is natural selection. So natural selection is the key mechanism to evolution. It describes the process by which individual and a population who are better adapted to the environment tend to survive and reproduce more successfully than other less adapted, and this leads to a change in the genetic makeup of the population over a generations. This is one of the aspects. While natural selection can drive divergence along the usually not sufficient to cause speciation, if two populations are continuously interbreeding, even they are adapting to different environment in gene flow will prevent them from becoming separate species. There should be some barrier. I have told you either reproductive isolation or geographical isolation. Khali natural selection is not sufficient. So in the very next hint, reproductive isolation, which is basically responsible for sympatric speciation. Reproductive isolation refers to the existence of biological factors. We have studied this in detail, like prevent two species from producing fertile offspring. These barriers can be pre-zygotic, preventing mating or fertilization, habitat isolation, temporal isolation, behavioral. All we have studied, mechanical, gametic, everything, preventing formation of viable fertile offspring. We have studied all them, right? And then you should know that why only natural selection is not sufficient or reproductive isolation is not sufficient. We need to have, like, option by option we can say that why it is not so. So if you go to first option, only natural selection not possible. Incorrect. While natural selection drive adaptation and divergence, it does not necessarily lead to speciation. Without reproductive isolation, gene flow counteracts the effects of natural selection if there is no barrier to interbreeding. That is not correct. Then the second option, only from reproductive isolation, not possible. You should have the natural selection also. Reproductive isolation necessary, but it does not cause the initial divergence to change the gene frequency. A natural selection or genetic drift is typically the driving force behind the accumulation of genetic difference and eventually lead to reproductive isolation. Reproductive isolation is outcome of the complete the speciation process, preventing the future gene flow. So reproductive isolation and natural selection both should be there. Then only we can say, okay, it will happen. And along with that, you should also know that the geographical isolation basically cause allopatric speciation, क्योंकि ये क्वेश्चन मुझे लग रहा है इस बार आपको मिल सकता है, that reproductive isolation, and we have taught you this thing, it was there in our booklet also. Reproductive isolation cause sympatric speciation. Sympatric speciation. And geographical isolation responsible for allopatric. ये आपको याद रखना है दोनों चीज. For allopatric, this could be the next question. Allopatric speciation. Right. So this manner we are done with 140 questions, and now we will discuss the passages.